time, space, reality. It's more than just a linear path. And today we're going to be pondering the question, what if all current F1 drivers got banned? I'm Harrison Turpett and I'm your guide through these troubling times. Now I'm imagining some sort of massive incident where some of these drivers are to blame, all of these drivers are to blame, and they all get a one race ban, maybe a year race ban, who knows. But today we're looking at what if all the drivers got banned forever. As you can see, the guys down the bottom, they are my contenders. Now these guys all have enough super license points. They're either racing in lower categories, Formula 2, Formula 3, maybe Formula E. Some of them are IndyCar, some of them are endurance racing, some of them retired, who I think might be brought back to a team. Now some of these guys I don't think have a chance. Like Nikita Mazepin here. He's okay, he's a bit washed, so he's out for me. There are some other guys I think do have a chance, so some of these guys which are on the edge of joining F1 next season anyway. Behrman, let's get him straight into Ferrari, I think. Everyone knows he's going to Haas next year. It's kind of an unkept secret, but he can go straight into the first Ferrari team personally. I think he's got that skill, that talent. They obviously see something in him for the long term, so let's put him in there for now as the first driver on the board. Similarly, his teammate at Prema this season, Antonelli, straight into Mercedes. It's really easy to decide. I think everyone knows he's going to go there, just a matter of time, so a bit more experienced, but might not get the nod, like Daniel Kvyat. I mean, he was very good when he was in AlphaTauri and Red Bull for a year, I think it was half a year, before he got replaced by Max Verstappen, but I don't see a team bringing him in. There's better older drivers that you would bring in to have the experience, and more promising younger drivers, which we'll get onto, so he is also out. One guy who I think is a bit under the radar this season because he's racing in IndyCar after racing in Super Formula. That's Theo Pourchaire, last year's Formula 2 winner. Now where should he go? Because he definitely deserves a seat. Personally, I can see him going to Sauber, but they've skipped him because he was a Sauber driver. Now he's a McLaren driver at IndyCar. But this year, in the banned driver scenario, I'm thinking there's possibilities. McLaren, because he's racing them from in IndyCar, Sauber, because he was their development driver, or Alpine, because he's French. Personally, I can see McLaren backing him. McLaren have a lot of options, I think they're very well stocked in the competitive development driver area, but Pourchaire is probably the best of the lot, so he goes straight into McLaren. And now a guy who I think a lot of these teams won't take. He's a very alright age profile, he has some Formula 1 experience, and that's Nick De Vries. Now this guy was alright when he joined Formula 1 last season, and by right I mean terrible, because he got axed halfway through the season. So he can go straight out the bin, no one will take him. If you want experience, there's better options. If you want a young guy who's got promise, there's better options. So he's not really in anyone's kind of contention, I think. Now Aston Martin, they got quite a good development program. And they got a development driver who won Formula 2 2 years ago. So put him straight into your team. You have him under contract, you might as well. That's Felipe Drugovich, who was going into Aston Martin. And I think similar to Nick De Vries, they had a very strong Formula 2 career, but they're a bit older now, they're a bit on the older side. I don't think they'll get a seat. There's Robert Schwartzman, the Russian, who's kind of Ferrari's development driver this season, doing a bit of Formula endurance. He's not going to make my cut for any team this year. He's out. But right now he doesn't have enough super license points to even be qualified, so he is out for that reason. I think he's a great driver, a lot of potential, but not enough points. He can't get in. One of the guys from abroad who could get in because they have enough, last season second place in Formula E, season before that winner of Formula E, that's Nick Cassidy. Where is he? He is here. Now this is a guy who's quite on the older side, but he's got a lot of experience from a lot of different categories. Now, I don't see one of the big teams picking him up, but maybe one of these small teams could be like, it's a really interesting option, enough points, still young enough to compete, and still got a lot of experience in terms of racing in different formulas. Bring him in, improve the car for the short term. I think maybe RB could be an interesting option. So could Sauber. I mean, personally I put him in Haas. I think Haas like the older kind of profile drivers. And this is a guy who's solid. Haas for him. One of the other guys I think is an alright option is Nico Rosberg, an ex-world champion, a great guy to have on your books. But he hasn't been racing in years. So personally, I think that teams will overlook him because he's just out of the kind of driving experience and the driving atmosphere. So he's a bit of a risk. So he goes out for me. One of the guys that has a lot of experience, but is still more recently retired ex-world champion, Sebastian Vettel. I'm putting in Red Bull. He's got a really good relationship there with his team. I think he's still probably very strong. He only left 2 seasons ago, so he's still got that racing drive. There's some talks of him going back to Mercedes, although those have been quashed with Antonelli coming through. So I can see him going to a team, especially in this crisis that we've found ourselves in. He goes to Red Bull. Alongside him is their development driver, Liam Lawson. I mean, he's ready-made for F1. He's got so much experience, a lot of races under his belt. He's quite a solid option to put alongside Vettel before you can kind of step into paces, try and win a World Constructors' Championship with Vettel and Lawson. And that's our first competitive lineup for the Red Bull team. And we know Williams, they've had their struggles recently with young drivers like Logan Sargent and Nicholas Latifi. I think they'll bring back an older guy, who's currently one of their sponsorship ambassadors, Jenson Button, ex-world champion. I know he's a bit older, and you can compare him to Rosberg, but he has stayed fit. Button's been racing in Formula Endurance for ages now, so he's still got that kind of passion, and he's been around the motorsport area for a while, so he knows what he's doing, he knows his team. Put him straight in there. Here he is, and into Williams he goes as the number 1 driver. I think with RB, they kind of want to keep the Honda sponsorship with Yuki Tsunoda going, and they've got a perfect guy to bring in who's currently racing in Super Formula, came 3rd last year in the F2 Championship. That is Ayumu Iwasa, and he goes into RB as their first driver. And now Sauber. They need some drivers because currently they're empty in here. I have just a guy for them. Marcus Ericsson. He'll still have a super license from racing in Formula 1 a few years ago, and he used to race for Sauber as well, so he knows the team a bit before they turn to Audi. I think this is a great option for them. He's still got a kind of racing blood in his veins where he's racing week in, week out, and also he's got the experience as well of racing in Formula 1 for a long time, not just a few races like some of these other guys, but a long time in the last 5 years or so, as well as racing as IndyCar at the higher end of the table. And now for Alpine, and there's already been talks of this driver joining them for next year. That is Jack Doohan. He's not the best F2 driver we've seen, but he's been consistent enough, and he's a bit older, so he's got a bit more maturity in his driving. He knows the team as well, being their development driver this year, so a sole option where it's not very contentious, not risky at all. Just put him there for now. And now at Mercedes, I think these guys, with Toto Wolff, they know who they're picking. There's only one option, it's Mick Schumacher. He's been Toto Wolff's little sidekick for the past couple of years, also racing in endurance racing. He's a bit of a F1 experience, so he has to go, and he's got that sporting heritage with his last name as well. He's a great option in terms of having that experience, but also still being relatively young. So he's a fine choice. I think not for the long term because you have Antonelli there, but in this intermittent time, you can put him in there solid. He'll do the job. And then we have RB again. I think right now they have one of the best up-and-coming drivers in the grid with Isaac Hadjar. That would be a great option for any team. He's on their books already. He makes sense to go alongside Ayumu Iwasa, looking to get that seat once Vettel eventually retires again after leaving Red Bull. And now we need to cut some drivers because there's a lot of guys still out here for only 7 seats left. And now we need to cut some drivers. And for me, Nicholas Latifi, he was great. And by great, I mean a cult hero. Everyone loved him, even though he wasn't the best driver. He was a great personality to have around. But for me, not quality enough to put on any of these teams right now with the young prospects coming through. So he's gone for me. Another option, which I think is a bit too risky right now, is Victor Martins. He was great last year. As a rookie, I think he came like 4th or 5th, or maybe even 3rd, behind some talented drivers like Pourchaire. But this year, it's been a trash fire. This guy's been finding it so difficult to get any points at all. So I don't think he'll be able to get a seat in F1 next year. Even though he's in the Alpine Academy, I think he's quite old, still like 22, so older than a lot of these other prospects, but has some red flags around him, and not in the good way. So he's gone. A guy who does have some red flags, but I think still a solid option Dennis Hauger. He won Formula 3 a few years ago, and since then has kind of middled in F2, finding it difficult to find his feet. This season, he's found his feet, and he's still a very good age. I think he's 21 or 20, so still very strong. I can see a team like maybe Haas being like, he's a very, very talented guy, F3 champion, was built up when he was F3 champion, and then kind of crashed down, got released by Red Bull. They'll bring him on, see what he can do in that Haas car. And then we have McLaren, and they have a very young driver in Bortoleto who is going to fill their seats. I wasn't sure about putting two young drivers in the team, but you see McLaren and you see Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris. They have a history of trusting these young guys who've come from Formula 2, and it's worked out well for them. So I don't see them stopping here, with Bortoleto proving himself in F3 last season, currently doing a great job in F2 this season. Another guy who's doing a great job in F2 is this guy, Aarons. Now he is class. He's been very, very consistent. I can see a team like Williams taking him. He used to be a Mercedes driver, and he kind of is unaffiliated right now. But I can see the Williams package is growing great into the future, and they can kind of lure him in here alongside a Jenson Button type driver to kind of lead him through the first year or two before they kind of make him into that team leader like Alex Albon is this year. Jack Crawford, he's a Aston Martin guy. He hasn't done super well this year, but he's got enough, but he's still very young. They'll put him in that team. It's fine. And then Giovinazzi, I think Ferrari want a bit of consistency, and they'll put him straight into their first team at Ferrari. They had a few years at Sauber, so I must put him in there. But alongside Behrman, who's been inconsistent in F2, you want someone consistent who's done the sport before, and that is Giovinazzi. Still a great age profile and been in the sport in Formula Endurance, so he's fine chilling out there at Ferrari with Behrman. Zane Maloney, but he's in now and he's going straight into Sauber. He's their junior driver right now. He was really leading the championship in the first 4 rounds of F2, so even though he's dropped down to third, he's still a very good driver and gets a Sauber seat for now. And that leaves one seat to fill with these 3 guys right here. And I think they're all different options. Raikkonen got the experience, but has been out of racing for a few years. So for me, he's gone. And then you have Palou or Vesti. Now Vesti, it was a very big surprise to see him coming second in the championship. He had some red flags around him, similar to what we saw of Hauger, similar to what we saw of Martins. So personally, I think he's a bit too risky. Someone who's not risky at all and can fit into their Alpine team. Alex Palou, I'm sure with his performances in IndyCar, they would love to have him in their team at Alpine, so they'll take him. And there we go. That's my lineup for the 2025 F1 grid if all the drivers got banned currently. At Red Bull, we have Vettel and Lawson. Aston Martin, we've got Drugovich and Crawford. At RB, we have Iwasa and Hadjar. At Williams, we have Jenson Button and Paul Aaron. Sauber, Marcus Ericsson and Zane Maloney. At Haas, we have Nick Cassidy and Dennis Hauger. Mercedes have gone with Kimi Antonelli and Mick Schumacher. Ferrari have Oliver Behrman and Giovinazzi. McLaren have Pourchaire and Bortoleto. And Alpine have gone with Jack Doohan and Palou. So here's my lineup. Let me know who you think would be switched around. Who would go where if all current F1 drivers were banned? That's right, you can't use any single one of them. Who would be where in your 2025 grid? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Peace.